Hey, what's up, guys? I'm coming right back at you with my UFC 118 main card predictions. Although, first off, I just want to say that I really like how on this card the UFC is really repping those Ultimate Fighter guys. I mean, you've got Florian from Season 1, Marcus Davis from Season 2, Joe Lozon, Gray Maynard, Nate Diaz, and Gabe Rudiger from Season 5, Gerald Harris from Season 7, and then Nick Oshpitzak and Andre Winter from Season 9. So you've got 9 out of the 22 guys fighting on this card as of right now were on the Ultimate Fighter. And I think that's great because a lot of these guys, they're not just fighting to, for the UFC to fulfill their contractual obligations of giving these guys, 2 or 3 fights. They're fighting because they've deserved it. I mean, Florian and Maynard are fighting each other for a title shot. I mean, so, I think that's great what the Ultimate Fighter has done for this sport, and hopefully will continue to do, for the sport. And that being said, let's get to some picks. First fight is in the welterweight division. Nate Diaz versus Marcus Davis. This fight could be a lot of fun, but I also acknowledge that Nate Diaz's last fight was very boring, but that was against a wrestler, and Gray Maynard, not a striker. So, these guys kind of mirror each other in an odd way. Like, Diaz has, decent hands, now that he's moving up to welterweight and, got a little stronger, and, great ground game, whereas Davis has decent ground game, but definitely the striking advantage. I mean, he's a former professional boxer, Golden Gloves champion, so he's got the definite striking advantage, and he's got power. He throws bombs, but in this fight, I have to give Diaz the advantage because he does have a reach advantage over Davis. He has a reach advantage over a lot of guys. He's got those lanky ass arms, but with his improved striking, I see him utilizing his jab a lot to kind of keep Davis and his bombs at bay. And then the other thing is you don't knock out Nate Diaz. He's never been knocked out. The only time he's been finished in his career was to Hermes Franca, and that was back in like 2006. So Diaz is tough. Even though a lot of people don't give him enough credit. And I know Diaz also, he does have that tremendous ground game. He's submitted quite a few guys, but at the same time, Davis hasn't lost by submission since 2004. So with this fight, I'm gonna go with Nate Diaz by decision, just based off, kind of controlling the fight, because he's got the grappling advantage and the reach advantage. I think he's gonna be able to control the pace of this fight and where this fight goes, and yeah, I think he's gonna take the decision. Next fight up is in the middleweight division. Damian Maia versus Miranda. Miranda is 11-1. His only losses to Gerald Harris by TKO at Fight Night 20 or Fight Night versus Jones. I can't remember. And then he most recently knocked out David Loazo at UFC 114. And Damian Maia is coming off two losses in his last 3 fights. But yeah, he lost to Nate Marquardt, but then he beat Dan Miller at UFC 109. And since Chael Sonnen and Vitor Belfort were both hurt, that granted him a title shot against Anderson Silva. And everyone knows how weird that fight was, and I think a lot of people gave Maia a lot of respect for that fight because he did start engaging, and he didn't get fed up with Silva's antics, and he survived 5 rounds with the dancing Anderson Silva, which is, I suppose, impressive. I mean, Chael Sonnen just controlled Silva for 4.5 rounds and ended up getting finished, but Miranda is he's very well rounded. And he's tough. Obviously, he just knocked out, a former top contender in David Loazo, and, now he's facing another top contender. So, on one hand, it wouldn't surprise me if Miranda, kind of, did what he does what he did against Loazo, or, kind of pulls a John Hathaway and just beats up in the former #1 contender like, Hathaway did Sanchez. But at the same time, Miranda's not Anderson Silva. Maia, I think, definitely comes in with the grappling advantage. I think he's going to look to get back to that and take it with a second-round submission. Next fight up is in the lightweight division. This is a top contender fight between Gray Maynard and Florian, 2 guys who are both on the Ultimate Fighter. Maynard is coming off a split decision win over Nate Diaz at Fight Night 20, and that fight was met with a lot of criticism because it was just a boring fight, not a lot of action. Florian lost to BJ Penn for the title last August at UFC 101, and he's riding a 2-fight win streak since then. He stopped Clay Guida, was the first guy to do that in UFC, at UFC 107. Hit him with a nice left cross, which dropped him, and then finished him with a Florian rear naked choke, and then he completely outclassed Takanori Gomi at Fight Night, Florian versus Gomi in the main event. Just kind of outclassed him on the feet early, utilized his jab and reach advantage, and third period, bam, takedown, mounts, rear naked choke. Kenny Florian finishes fights. So this should be a fun matchup. I mean, Maynard's obviously the explosive wrestler, and his striking isn't the greatest. He's got some power in his hands, but he likes to go back to his wrestling. But the thing is, I know he's going to try to take Florian down. Ask Joe Lozon how that went. That fight, Joe took him down, and Kenny was just immediately bam, 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 with the elbows. So, Kenny does have, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I think on the feet, Florian's going to completely outwork Maynard, and, on the ground, Maynard's certainly not going to finish him on the ground. And I just see Kenny, even in the third round, I wouldn't even be surprised to see Kenny go for the takedown to try to finish it himself. So that being said, I'm going to go with Kenny Florian, third round submission. Probably a rear naked choke. I mean, he's done that to like 6 other guys in the UFC. So yeah, Kenny Florian, choke, third round. The co-main event of the evening is Randy Couture versus James Lights Out Toney. This is a matchup people have been talking about for a while because Toney's making the transition from boxing to MMA, and Toney's obviously got the footwork and the tremendous striking as a boxer, and I spend a lot of time on Sherdog, and people are posting these links about how Toney's well-known training partners are saying oh man, he almost broke my ankle with with ankle lock. I don't buy into that. I know he's gonna have the advantage with striking, but I know he's been training MMA for a while, but he's not going to be nearly as well-rounded as Randy Couture. So, if Couture can, stay away from getting hit with 1 or 2 big bombs right away, I see Couture, taking him down, maybe working some dirty boxing up against the fence, but taking him down, ground and pounding him, or, kind of doing what he did to Mark Coleman and just getting him to, softening him up and sinking him to choke. And I think that's going to happen in the first round, honestly. I like James Toney, and I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't even be disappointed if he did put out Couture. I'm not a huge Couture fan, I'll be honest, but I support him, Captain America. He's a wrestler, and I do think he's going to win this fight. Ground and pound TKO or submission in the first. And then the main event of the evening, the rematch, BJ Penn versus Frankie Edgar for the lightweight championship. These two fought back in April at UFC 112. Edgar won a decision. I definitely don't agree with the judges that gave him the 50-45 score and the 49-46 score. When Bruce Buffer announced those scores, I actually thought Penn had won the fight. But yeah, Edgar won the decision, and I do like Frankie Edgar. I'm not really a BJ Penn fan, and I hate his nut huggers probably more than any other guy in the sport. So it was great to see him lose. And to be honest, I kind of get tired of the same guy holding the belt for a while. So it was nice to see Edgar win, but I'm an Edgar fan, and I hope he wins this fight. But I really fear for Frankie Edgar in this fight because Penn didn't come into the last fight looking that great. So I think he respects the fact that he did lose the decision, even if his fans won't come to terms with that. But I'm scared for Frankie Edgar in this fight because I think BJ Penn is basically going to pull a Shogun and come out and finish this fight, early first, second, third round by either, connecting with a big right hand, which is, what people thought was going to happen in the original fight but Frankie used his footwork and head movement to, stay away from getting hit too hard. But, I think BJ is going to be smart enough to maybe try to take Frankie down and, get his patented rear naked choke sunk in maybe the second, third round. So that's what I see happening, again, either a big knockout in the feet, or if he can't catch him, taking him down and getting the rear naked choke. Again, maybe Frankie will do the same thing as the last time, use the footwork, to try to do what he needs to do to win in the judges' eyes. But I've got Penn winning with a choker, TKO. So those are my picks, and this card's coming up in a couple weeks, so everyone take it easy.